Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the King of Hearts podcast hosted by me, Chiara King. Today, I can't believe I'm saying these words because I've been following this woman for a very, very long time. I'll explain all about it. But we have the amazing Jillian Turecki, or as you may know in the podcast world, the biggest love and relationships podcast, Jillian On Love, is here in the building right now. And I cannot believe it. So, hello, Jillian. How are you?
Hello. Wow, I'm so flattered by the introduction. I'm very happy to be here. I'm good. I'm excited to dive right into whatever we need to dive into today.
Yes. So, today is actually, it's a deep one. I'm not going to lie, Jillian. I mean, let me first go back to how I got to know you and how I got to know your podcast. I was with my first love maybe like 2.5 years ago. No, 2 years ago. And I got so severely heartbroken, like the worst I've ever been. I feel like the worst heartbreak is always the first one because it's the first time experiencing love and pain. Yeah, and I'd been healing through that for 2 years, and then one day I was in Vegas and I was super hungover. I was just so like feeling heartbroken and hungover, and I found Jillian On Love. I found you on Spotify, and you honestly like soothed me through my heartbreak or feelings of anxiety, feelings of not feeling good enough. Because obviously, you raised so many topics about love, obviously, which is what I talk about on my podcast. Super relatable: dating, love, heartbreak.
If you love me, let me fly away. Maybe I'll come back to you. Maybe I won't.
If you don't know already, I recently just announced me and my boyfriend broke up, and it was quite a public relationship. But also, a lot of my friends and people that I know have also been going through breakups. 7-year relationships just completely ended out of nowhere around the like eclipse season. I don't know what is in the air right now, but like everyone is going through a breakup. So I just wanted to bring you are the master of love and heartbreak. And I just need your advice and like maybe some tips and tricks on how to get through it. For me, I actually my breakup was quite friendly and amicable. It was my decision, but we left things on really good terms. I have had relationships in the past which ended, pretty much all my relationships before this one ended so badly, like, from everything to nothing. Whereas this one was a lot more loving and caring. I care so much about him. But even if you care so much about someone and end on good terms, it still hurts. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I just want to commend you on having a amicable, friendly breakup.
It was so hard.
Yeah, that's something to be proud of. And I'm not saying that if you have a terrible breakup, like be ashamed of it, but if you are like that just is a testament to the two of you maybe having a strong bond that wasn't meant to last in romantically, but a bond nonetheless. And I think that, one of the things that I try to help people do is to, if you're going to break up with someone, to do it with class. And the way that you do it with
Yeah.
class is you do it with just a lot of respect. Now, I understand that there are circumstances that are dire where you need to get out of something quickly. And you can't just you don't have the privilege to end a relationship with grace and class. But if you do, because one of the hardest conversations we will ever have
So
is the
hard.
breakup conversation.
Yeah.
And so, especially if you are initiating it, it's totally normal to want to avoid that conversation
Yeah.
because, at the end of the day, we don't want to disappoint the person, we don't want to hurt the person.
Exactly.
But it's so important to be as honest and as loving and respectful as you possibly can because breaking up is hard enough as it is. When the story of the actual breakup itself, that event, is traumatic, that just adds so much salt to the wound
Yeah.
and
And
adds
trauma.
so much trauma to the experience.
Mm.
And so breaking up is hard. But it is one of those hard conversations that I really want to encourage people to, if they can, to do it with as much respect as possible.
Yeah, funnily enough, as you saying, like it was really hard for me to have that conversation. And actually, by waiting, I was thinking about it for like 3 months. Like I wasn't really feeling myself for quite a while. And I do believe in like, everything that you view in life is a mirror of how you view yourself. And I wasn't loving myself. I was not able to give him as much love as he was giving me. It was so unbalanced. And like I just found myself like at a deficit because my glass was empty. I physically couldn't give him as much as he was giving me. And then that felt like the dynamics in the relationships was super unbalanced. And it took me like a few months to finally have that conversation, but I was suffering through that. I should have had that conversation earlier probably, because I was then living with so much guilt to the point where I got physically sick. Like these emotions, these stuck emotions ended up manifesting in physical illness. That's how much they were tormenting me. Like these things I needed to let out. And, life is life, and it happened the way that it did. And I wouldn't change it for the world, but I definitely do think I waited too long for that conversation to happen out of the difficulty of breaking up.
Oh, yeah, it's very scary. And also, I'm curious, but if you were to be really, really honest, was this about you not feeling ready for a relationship because you needed to love yourself more? Or is it that you just did not love him in that way?
I think I think it was a bit of both. It was definitely a bit of both. Like it was a long distance relationship, number one. So
Those are hard.
yeah, and I have a track record of being in long distance relationships. And I spoke to another guest on the pod, and she said, do you want to know the reason why you always end up in long distance relationships? And I was like, why? And she said, it's because you're emotionally distancing yourself because you don't want to be allowing someone so close to you. So you keep them at a physical distance so that you can keep them at an emotional distance. And I was
Does that ring true to you? Because just because an expert says that to you doesn't mean it's true. Does it ring true to you?
I mean, I definitely think parts of it, yeah, just because of that fear of letting someone in and then them breaking my heart. But then I also do tend to like guys that are not English or from the UK. So it's a bit hard. But
Yeah.
on the most part, yeah, it definitely resonated with me. Like I definitely wasn't emotionally available because I think I wasn't emotionally available for myself. Like I am such a strong believer in like you can't have anyone else love you if you don't love yourself. And I was definitely living at a I'm not good enough mentality for a very long time. So whenever I was in a relationship, I would always be blaming them that they're not good enough. And then always seeing as the grass is always greener on the other side instead of appreciating the person that's in front of me. Yeah, that's basically how it went. And then the other part is I think I just didn't see that future with him. I couldn't see it.
Yeah.
And that was another thing that really, I waited because the relationship was super healthy and loving, but there was always something missing and I couldn't put my finger on it. And I spoke to my mom about it and she was like, you don't need to have a reason. It can just be the way it is. And if you don't feel in a certain way and you don't see yourself with that person, then that's okay. You don't need a big reason for that. But it's still hard not having a reason to break up, Not having like a, oh my God, you cheated on me kind of reason.
Yeah, no, it can be very difficult. I mean, the only thing that I would say is like, this was a good man? Is your pattern to be with men who are not good?
No, not really. I just think,
I-
yeah, he was,
Sometimes, look, the reality is that sometimes you just don't feel it.
that's it.
We don't feel that deeper connection that we want to feel in order to truly commit to someone for the long term.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's inexplicable. And sometimes it feels inexplicable, and then time passes, and then you can really start to put your finger on, oh yeah, there was this thing that really bothered me. That was the thing that, if I'm honest with myself, is the reason why I really couldn't fully give my heart to this person.
Yeah.
But you did it, but it was amicable, and that's what's really most important. And I would say, like, the biggest thing about breakups is, like, what did you learn about yourself? I mean, a relationship truly is a classroom. It's a place where
Yeah.
we enter to learn about our beliefs, our
Yeah.
fears, our conditioning, our childhoods. And
Mhm.
also, it's a place where we go to learn about what it is that we do want and what it is that we don't want.
Exactly.
And so, I think that as far as breaking up is concerned, the most important thing is that a person is willing to take some time to self-reflect.
Yeah. I've been doing that in like, the last, well, we broke up 3 weeks ago, but just for the first time, I think for me, I went on a retreat in Mexico, and I did a lot of healing work. I did this thing called Temazcal, which is this like ceremony where you meditate for 3.5 hours in this like really uncomfortable environment. And a lot of suppressed emotions arose because usually what I would,
It's like a sweat lodge.
yes, it's like a meditation,
Yeah, it's very intense.
super intense. And like I was crying and screaming, like all these negative emotions came out, and I literally was screaming, for the first time in a long time, like physically screaming and crying, which was really releasing, because usually in past relationships when we'd break up, I would basically ignore it and rebound and forget that that ever existed and just kind of not process it. Whereas this time, it's like, okay, this is really difficult, what I'm feeling right now. As much as it ended amicably, there's things that I learned about myself and about what I want and don't want, as you said. And I've got to deal with that. But also things with my parents as in my childhood that I realized I need to deal with before getting into my next relationship, if I ever get another relationship again. Because right now, that's the last thing I can think about. But
What do you think you need to deal with in order to get into a relationship again?
I definitely feel like the relationship with my dad is something that really affected the way my relationship was with men, or has been with men. And it's been, yeah, since I was 13. So, you know, I just needed guys to fill the void where I wanted my dad to be.
Yes.
So now I'm actually rebuilding my relationship with my dad. And it was never like terrible before, but there were some things where I felt like I wanted to be loved more, and he wasn't there emotionally for me. So,
Yeah, I understand that. Who did you think you had to be in, or like as a child, what was it that you had to do or you thought you had to do to get his love? What would get his attention?
oh, to like be really good at school. Yeah, to be like outstanding in school and be an academic scholar. And I was basically be that A-star good girl, for my dad to be like, you've been so, like, I'm so proud of you, And then I entered doing social media, and it wasn't exactly the most traditional way of working. And my dad didn't really understand it, which is completely not his fault. But it was just really, it was really challenging for me, because it was the first time where I didn't get my dad's approval, and I like lived
And you did it anyway.
I did it anyway because it made me happy, and working in the
That's
city
wonderful.
and finance was not gonna make me happy.
And he adjusted, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're just going to take a pause there, and we'll be back after this break.
Yeah, so now I'm going on a trip. We just went to India together in January. That was really nice. And now we're going to LA together, just me and my dad, just to, rebuild that bond. Obviously, I know it's never going to be the same like it used to be, because I'm 25 now, I'm not 13. And it's also accepting that it will never be the same. And this is a new relationship now, and it's just changing.
Yeah, look, I mean, If I had that level of maturity at 25, I'd be really psyched. So good for you. So good for you. So you're healing. You're sitting with feelings, you know? I mean, a lot of times when we have to be like, you know, the perfect scholar, straight A student,
Yeah.
be great at everything, you know, so that leads to perfectionism.
Oh yeah, I'm a massive perfectionist.
Yeah. So then it's like, okay, perfectionists have perfected the art of beating themselves up emotionally.
Yeah, I'm my worst critic.
Yes. And so just to circle back to something you said earlier, people who have perfected the art of beating themselves up emotionally do a really good job in doing that with others, especially their partners, because our eyes are so trained to pick up on what's wrong.
Yeah.
You know, our senses are well trained to pick up on what's wrong. So, you know, when you get tired with doing that to yourself, you'll do that with your partner.
Yeah.
So learning how to kind of ease up on that
How do you do that?
is huge. Well, you're already doing it. You're already doing that. You're letting yourself feel, you know, perfectionists are very good at suppressing difficult emotions.
Oh yeah.
And you decided to sit with your difficult emotions with the sweat lodge or whatever you did. You know, you said, I have a tendency to avoid or to push those away.
100%.
And I was going to really sit with that. So that's huge. That's healing.
Yeah, it was really painful though.
You are strengthening your relationship with your father as a 25-year-old woman versus as a 13-year-old girl. That's healing. That's healing. And then, you know, as far as the perfectionism is concerned, you know, you have to think about like what needs being a perfectionist fulfills. So like a lot of times, you know, when we're driven by this need to like be the best at everything or scholar, we're driven by the need to feel really important and significant. It's the need of the ego. And everyone has a need to feel important and unique. But it becomes a very lonely world and a very lonely life when you're driven by the need to be important, because then instead of feeling connected to others or connected to the earth or connected to life, you're constantly looking for ways to stand out. And that's not actually what leads. I mean, it can help us feel a little good about our achievements, but it's not long-term fulfillment. And then also perfectionists are driven by the need to feel really safe and certain. So it's like they're not going to do anything until they're 100% sure.
Yeah.
And so it's really just about saying, okay, I'm going to look at my values a little bit differently. I'm going to maybe value community more. I'm going to value giving back more. I'm going to value taking some risks, or, you know, whatever. I'm going to value growth and really not always have to be the best at everything, or I'm going to beat to my own drum. But the thing is, you even deciding to go an unconventional route as compared to what was expected of you is healing. So it's just about bringing awareness to all of this.
Yeah, I definitely think having the career that I do, though, is very triggering for that perfectionist side of me, because
Yes.
doing social media is super unpredictable. You know,
Yes.
like every day I'm like, is this video going to do well? Is this picture going to do well? And when it doesn't, or, you know, because some days
Yeah,
it
I
doesn't,
know.
it's like really hits me, because I have this like, I need everything to be controlled. And with social media, you can't really control it.
I know. And but that's something that all us creators are faced with all the
Okay.
time. It's like, what, you know, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
And all I can say is that the people I know who are like really sort of killing it in the sense that they're not. So first of all us creators feel that. Like I will feel that too. But
Okay.
I
I feel
think
a bit
that if
better
you can
now.
see it as a game of just like, oh, like I wonder why that didn't perform as well. Like let's see if I can figure out like what it is that they really want. And then also I think figuring out a way to give back or to build your career that's not solely based on social media,
Yeah, I think.
which might take some time and creativity to kind of figure that out. But yeah, I know it's very hard. It's very hard. I hear you.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think all creators feel that way.
Yeah, I think right now I've actually been putting some boundaries in for myself, because I used to be such a control freak even before Mexico. I was like really overwhelmed with work as well. And now, you know, I was doing everything on my own. Obviously I have my manager, but like most things I was doing everything on my own, editing my videos, posting 7 times a day. I was replying to all my comments. I was, doing everything. And now I came back and I was like, look, I'm not going to look at my phone until 10 a.m. every day. And I've been sticking to that.
Good.
I have hired an editor now.
Good.
It's really helped. My mum now replies to all my comments.
Good.
So I've hired
Fabulous.
her. And I'm also hiring a stylist to help me like wear clothes because I don't know how to wear clothes sometimes. That's in a cool way.
Wonderful. So this is good. This is very good. You're going from, I mean, I did the same thing. I went from doing everything
Yeah.
myself to, okay, now it's time. I proved to myself that I can do everything.
Yeah.
Now it's time to hire people. And it
Yeah.
makes your life so much easier. So good for
Yeah.
you.
It's almost like giving away your baby though. I don't know if that's how you feel. It's like
Yeah,
giving your baby to
totally.
someone
But
else to
then
look
you're like,
after.
oh, I don't, when you like trust the people and then there's a flow and then you're like, oh, I have some time today to myself.
Yeah. Like I read a book for an hour
Yes.
today and part of me felt guilty that I wasn't like on my phone, but then the other part was
That's all the perfectionist disease. You just have to it's just practicing mindfulness, the mindfulness of when that old patterning comes up and just be like, okay, that's just my old patterning. Like what it's bringing up for me is actually something from childhood. This is not actually based in any reality.
Yeah. So that's basically what I'm going through right now. I'm in my healing girl era.
Great. Love it.
And if you have any advice to, everyone listening right now who's going through a breakup, what would be your one piece of advice or 2 pieces of advice that you would give?
Yeah, well, maybe I'll give a few more. So
Yeah.
if you're right, like in the acute stages of it, take care of yourself and lean on people. So whether, you might need a therapist or you're
do.
leaning on family or friends,
Both.
but just try to take care of yourself. Like try to hydrate and eat food and take care of yourself and recognize that a breakup is a death, so you're grieving.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. Another thing is, your ex, if you're feeling really rejected, if you're someone who's like been dumped, remember your ex is not as amazing as you think them to be. They're just a human being who chances are you weren't very happy with, but you didn't want to face
And
that
also
unhappiness.
you can idealize that person as well.
Oh, 100%. And you can idealize the relationship and forget that you were unhappy.
Yeah.
And then what I would say is, do some self-reflecting. The processing experience is uncomfortable. You're going to feel a lot of emotions. You'll feel anger, you'll feel depression. You're going to blame them, then you're going to blame yourself. But ultimately, what you want to arrive to is an understanding of your contribution and their contribution to what didn't work.
Yeah.
And to say, what did I learn from this that I want to take into my next relationship or that I don't want to take into my next relationship?
Yeah, I think making a list of like where they went wrong and where you went wrong and where you want to change for the next relationship and now what you don't want from your partner in the next relationship.
Yes, and that's going to evolve. But, what I will say is I'll end the advice with this, which is that during a breakup, especially in the beginning, your mind is a mess and it's not making sense. So don't trust your thoughts.
Okay.
Feel your feelings, but don't trust your thoughts because there's a lot of stories going on and there's a lot of what ifs and there's a lot of anxiety and there's a lot of anger and there's a lot of emotions. And the only way out is through, and you will get through it, and it's temporary.
Right. I know it's not easy doing this kind of stuff, but I also am such a hype woman of breakups too. I think you need to die in order to rebirth into a new woman or man, Every time I've been through a breakup, I've had such big moments of self-discovery. And also, every relationship that I've been through each relationship after that previous one, I've gotten closer and closer to the person I actually would want to be with. Like
There you go.
Three boyfriends ago was far from what I want to be with. But like, the boyfriend I had now was way closer to what I want to be with, because not only did I raise my standards and I started setting boundaries for myself, and I was like, actually, I'm not going to accept this shit treatment from a guy like who doesn't want to pick me up from the train station or doesn't want to reply to my texts. To
Yes,
then
yes.
getting someone who honestly, my ex-boyfriend treated me like a princess. He treated me so well. And I think just seeing and reflecting on the kind of boyfriends I have attracted over time, they've improved in character. So
That's it. That's very good. That's very important. Very,
yeah,
very important.
yeah, now it's just time to love myself and fill my own cup and do things that make me happy, like have a bath. I love baths.
Yeah,
I
there
love
you go.
reading. Baths are the best.
Yeah, agree.
Not drinking too much, because that sends me the wrong way.
Alcohol makes our emotions very messy. It's a
Yeah,
depressant, so it can really,
it
when you're going through
is.
a hard time. Yeah,
The
alcohol
demons
is a
come out.
severe depressant. Yeah.
So whenever I notice myself wanting to have a drink, I'm always asking myself, what do I want to escape right now? Like, what is it that I want to escape?
Look, you're doing major self-reflective work. That's huge. Good for you.
Thanks. I'm not perfect, but I'm trying.
But there's no such thing as perfect. So
Yeah,
you don't want to chase an impossible standard. You just want to chase
being
growth within
happy.
yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. And obviously, I'm not going to be happy every day and all the time,
And I was not doing any of the things that you're doing at 25. Not even remotely
What
close.
were you doing at 25?
I mean, just not self-reflecting. I'll tell you that.
Okay, right. Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you so much for joining. This has been like such an honor to have you on the show. Honestly, a dream come true for me. It's like milestone has been hit.
That's
Yeah.
very, very, very kind. And truly the pleasure is all mine. Really.
And I can't wait to listen to more of your episodes. If you don't know Jillian, she's the best. Her podcast is called Jillian On Love. You can watch her everywhere, listen to her, Apple Music, Spotify, all things love, breakups, dating, self-love, healing, all the juicy good stuff that we all need in our lives. Jillian is there. And she's been there for me. You've been there for me in times where I've really needed you. So thank you. And I hope that I can also do something like what you're doing with my audience as well. So it's all feels super aligned. And so I just want to say thank you again for coming. And you've really helped me as well, figuring some stuff out. So grateful. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Really, truly, the pleasure is all mine. It was lovely to speak to you, and I hope your audience gets a lot out of this conversation.
Yes, I hope so too. So if you're watching or listening at home, I hope you get through whatever you're going through right now. And with every cloud, there comes a rainbow after. So nothing in life is permanent.
This is true.
Yes. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you, Jillian. And I'll see you guys next week on King of Hearts. And like and subscribe and review us 5 stars if you like it. So, okay. I love you guys. Bye.
Maybe I won't